In the last video, I asked 5 of Bingo's greatest ever players to rank each other in different categories. This is the second part of that video, with them ranking each other in 2 more categories, followed by some bonus content and what my opinions are on the final rankings. With that being said, let's get right into our first category of today with Most Creative.
Most creative. I think I'm gonna put Larvae at 5 on this one. It hurts to put Larvae at 5. I haven't seen Larvae do a lot of creative plays. I think, in the matches I played against him, and the matches I watched way back then, he knew the right answer, and that's a good thing, is knowing the right answer. But it makes a difference compared to being a creative player and being a player who is correct all the time. So I'm going to put Larvae at 5 for that, because I hadn't seen a lot of creativity come out of him. In his card analysis, I'm seeing some creativity in terms of like, ooh, you could do this. This could be a possible play. A lot of that. But in terms of the actual gameplay, I haven't seen a lot of it. I'm going to put Dex at 4. Not a specific reason for putting Dex at 4. I'm just... it's sort of like a placeholder for everyone else. I didn't play against Dex enough to see like creativity in plays. It was sort of, in the matches that I played against him, I was the playmaker, and he was sort of responding to everything that I was doing. I really wish I could rewatch the Dex Pogo match, because that would probably tell me more if he was a creative player in terms of those mid and late games. At number 3, I'm gonna put Ramado for creativity. Ramado is very similar to Larvae, where he just knows the correct answer all the time. But I haven't seen him branch out and do like these really cute creative plays. Compared to Jeff and I, he's just really good at seeing the creative play and knowing the answer to it, and seeing like the threat of, oh, if this play happens, I know the answer to it. So he's sort of like the counter for creativity, but he's done some creative plays as well. I'm going to stick Ramado at 3 on that one. Number 2 on this, I'm going to put Jeff. I didn't really see a lot of creative plays for a while, but one of the matches, I think it was Jeff versus Tomato. It was Jeff versus someone. I don't remember who, but it was... one side had all Serena and the other side had the other one, and Jeff forfeited the first goal that had all the Serena, but went Serena anyways, which I thought was really, really cool. Because it took a lot of power away from the Serena player, and he was able to take a lot. He just didn't care that the opponent had the side of Serena. He just went in and fully threatened it. So I think that is an example of a really creative play that Jeff does. He's not afraid of threatening stuff like that. But number 1, I'm gonna put myself, in terms of creativity. That is like the main thing that I do in Bingo, is I will find that really cute creative play. I will try and make it work, even if it sucks, even if it's really bad, and even if I lose, I will try and make it work. If I have a vision on a card, I want to try and make it work. And I think that's where creativity comes in best. I will do a pin rush if I see a pin rush is good on a card. If 6 from 2 is on the card, yeah, I'll do the slowest worlds. I'll do a Gelato Serena 6 from 2. I will find ways to make it work. And because of my speed, it allows me to be more creative. I don't need to go for the correct option. I can have some creativity. And I was sort of going back into picking the correct answers in this past tournament, but it allowed me to branch out a little bit more, which I think is really, really good.
For creativity, my last place is Dex. I'm sorry. Being volatile is... or maybe I should talk about creativity in general. I think the level of play has increased in a little bit, where it got to a point where being creative is typically being bad, and like being good creative is kind of like, you know, being more and more extinct, which is kind of tough to say it, you can still definitely be like a good creative, but like it's definitely more difficult when good plays are being more normalized. Dex gets like last because I like being bad creative should not reward you that highly. And have it like, I don't know how well it works out for him. It's tough. I'm sorry, Dex. For fourth, I have Jeff, and I'm putting him low because I feel like I can't really put. It's not that like Jeff is not creative. In fact, he had like the season 2 game against Trey, where like he had the idea that's definitely like something that that you can be mindful of, but he did like the play, like, or he found the angle where you can do the purposeful over delay, where like Deep Yanko was like insane, and to unlock that you need to do PD2 as well. So that's a boss rematch. But he purposefully delayed that, like did not want to show that information, and Trey actually clicked it off. But it was still good because like hiding that information was more worth than like the goal swing. And for Jeff to recognize that and actually implement that, I valued it a lot. But like the reason why he's fourth is because the other three are like kind of dominating in that category a bit too much for very different purposes, by the way. Which I think like creativity is like the coolest category here. For third place, I have to put Rimado there, and that is primarily because his card vetting ideas were very creative, certainly, but like this, it's also difficult to judge that over it being implemented. The biggest thing why Rimado is above Jeff, for instance, is that Rimado is kind of the meta setter, where like in the 2v2 tournament in 2018, Danny and Rimado were a team that were very distinct from the others, because Danny was doing the level progression, like all the shine progression stuff, and Rimado is the random bullshit guy. Early blue coins, early totals, blue coins, early hundreds, fruit ladies, lives. They are called the Rimado stuff for a reason. He is the one that like popularized just like doing this like weird ass non-level progression stuff, and in a time where like that was very common. And just for that, like it's difficult to put him anything below third. His row control play is also very unique as a result, because he used to be like the 9-goal route guy when in a meta where like that was not common at all, because the low progression stuff was his thing. The Pianta into Pinner was his thing before JJ came around and copied him, basically. Not purposefully. So like being a trendsetter and normalizing as better, like he gets more stable, and that kind of normalized him, and that made him less creative as a result. And so it's difficult to be like, yes, he's a very creative person, because like everyone molded into him, basically, or like tried to mold into him. Not everyone actually did that like purposefully, but Blue Coins got way more like popular just because it's like Rimado wins them with like wins based on Blue Coins alone, basically. So people had to adapt for that. But after that, I think it kind of like stagnated with like the quote unquote creativity. But that's like supposed to be like not shade at Rimado, because like as I said, it turns out like creativity only becomes just more and more bad as time progresses, or like as the level advances. For second place in that category, I have myself, and that might be like a little bit of a selfish placement, but what I think makes me creative is that especially during when I was active, I feel like the specific formats were thought of in a very like rigid way, or like at least in a way where I was like very different. In Invasion, there used to be just the matter of, you know, trying to get like your base established, trying to get like the best base and building that up, and then you just kind of play. And I had I emphasized and had like a rather novel outlook at that, where I'm thinking like the middle lines, what are like the most important there, like what side is actually advantaged for that, so like what side is favorable for like fighting important middle goals that like they need. Is a side like able to invade actually? And I judged the card or like the matchup more based on that. Other players certainly were thinking of invades as well, but I feel like it was more like of an emphasis of like your base being good rather than of like how the matchup played out. This obviously improved over time. And so it's like more commonplace, but I feel like that was more of a thing that I thought about that was not common at the time. Similar things about draft. I feel like I had like very specific ideas of like how draft, or like what things about draft make them unique. Just like the presence of your, you know, neutral goals being like more like most important, or like your draft being basically like a big concealment, like not showing your opponent, like not like, or having some sort of like forbidden zones or forbidden goals that your opponent goes for, and they have to basically gamble to pick the correct ones, depending on like how good your draft is or like how the draft works out. And as a result, like having your opponent be more restrictive by just like having them to take gambles on goals, for instance. It's not something that I felt like other players really thought about. Or thought about it that way. And I think like in that way, I had like formal creativity. My role control is pretty trash. So like, there, like in that format, Ramado has been completely beat in terms of like creativity. But like in C5, I had like C5. There were like just like a lot of metas. One of them was like a lot of big cheesers. But like I always fought for, not for better but for worse, of like one of the predominant strategies of like forcing your opponent to to go for a block of a Connect 5 by threatening stuff. I always looked at like what is very threatening, not what is a good like Connect 5. And I don't really feel like that that was that commonplace. Maybe I'm completely off on that. But if it was not commonplace, then it makes sense, because the approach did not work for me like a lot of times. Season 2, a regular season game against Samu is calling for that, because I did like a very that's also why I would put myself fourth actually in gameplay analysis. The reason for that is I did like a very aggressive like play that's supposed to lock Samu into like 3 or 4 reds, but that hinged on like doing 50 yellows from 3 levels, which was a goal for some reason. 50 from 2, you know, like the synergy, something else a really early game, and like the 4th goal was like 3 or 4 reds, which was like very terrible on the card. But like and I thought, okay, if I do this, then my opponent kind of has to do like one of the worst the worst goal on the board probably. And then I just have like a huge lead, I thought. Like this is the way I thought about like formats. That was a little bit rambly, I'm sorry, Wotam. Anyway, like I think format wise I'm like rather creative, and when we had like the one board tournament, when we like were able to prepare, I like Bianco Rico was like very predominant play on that card with like 2 rockets, 5 enemies, and like even more Bianco Rico, I think 7 enemies plus like something else. And in that mini tournament, out of 8 players, Bragai and I were the only ones that like looked at that and thought, okay, a good counter for that is doing 5 enemies with Rico. And I feel like 5 enemies with Rico was not like a very common play at the time, because for some reason it was like always like Bianco Rico, Bianco Rico, Bianco Rico. And I won the one board tournament of that, of like that idea. Excuse me. So I also had like the idea in 2v2 of doing like, there was like a Garo combination of 3 red coins, 150 in Delfino, and 18 lives, and I combined those, which was, you know, like pretty silly, but like for like Sunshine routing, like unique routes in Sunshine in particular, I think I'm not like that great. I'm more of like a format creativity guy. At least I think so. And that's very different from like the creativity that Romado has, and that's very different from the creativity that my number 1 has. I'm sorry for like this category being super long, but JJ is my number 1. I think that's like almost self-explanatory when you look at the like arbitrary routes that he does. And like, even though arbitrary often means arbitrarily bad, or arbitrary parentheses bad, when you combine everything with like, you know, just having the nerves of steel of just like doing stupid stuff, or sometimes works out because your opponent expects you to do good stuff. And that's like a huge benefit that like JJ like benefited as well, because he's good enough at routing where like you kind of expect him to do good stuff. So when he does the stupid stuff, then it's like, what the fuck are you even supposed to do? And he sometimes just has like the vibe of like, oh, I could do this, and then have it turn out okay or like fine. And he does it not very like, you can say that like it's very uncreative, because like a lot of the times these are like, oh, I'm getting to pinner fast, or like I'm doing Pianta pinner, or like Pianta being JJ's world is like almost a meme at this point. Where like, oh, it's a Pianta there's a Pianta angle, okay, yeah, that's just a JJ card. And this can be seen as like very uncreative, but like I feel like this is this like weird approach to a singular card is definitely like JJ's forte, and what I think makes him difficult to play against. The thing that I thought was like most annoying against JJ was like the very arbitrariness. And it worked out pretty decently for him, obviously, based on his results. It's also in part with his speed, of course, but it's I think like top 4, like you can almost basically permutate as you will, except for Dex. I'm sorry, Dex. And have like a good argument for that, but like I'm settling on this one.
For creativity, here's where the Romado is a cheeser allegations come in. Romado and other people call himself a cheater, not a cheater, a cheeser quite a bit, because here's why. I think it plays into the creativity factor quite a bit, and the reads. He did, you know, invent a lot of bingo strategy. A lot of bingo players of today do plays that resemble Romado. There's a lot of interesting plays he does. For example, in the recent Scrimathon, there's row control, and he just did a Noki rush route where he got 17 Delfinos before airstrip. I don't know if it counted airstrip, but 17 before he got to Noki, I'd say that's not exactly normal. So yeah, he definitely has his own routes. JJ's next. I put him high here. Yeah, he's also known for pin rush type routes, using his speed as an advantage. No one else really does that as well as he does, and no one does it nearly as much. So his style is very creative, I would say. Jeff would be next for creative. He he's played a lot of bingo, and you can tell his non-lockout experience really comes into helpful. Uh, with especially little things. He's known for coining the term micro routing, where he just gets everything in an optimum order, regardless of whether like you need something now or later. He's always got a very creative way, especially with one ups. He made a video all about one ups, and yeah, that makes Larvy number 4. Um, Larvy's had some creative plays too. I remember in season 2 semifinals, he did some like crazy gelato play. I guess again, all these players are really great. Larvy just hasn't struck me as creative as some of the rest. Even though, like with the card vetting, right? Game plan. Some of these things interlock quite a bit, right? He has some very creative routes with some of these cards. Last but not least is me again. I Some people do say I have some pretty unique and creative routes. I would say why I put myself at the bottom here is because I have a pretty low ratio of how well these creative routes turn out to be. So
Next up, we have creativity. Here I have maybe a surprise first place for Larvitar. I think there might be someone else that people are expecting above him, but I think Larvitar is like back in the day he was always known for his screenplays and just doing some wacky ideas. And I think what I value is that usually his ideas like have some good reasoning behind them, so it's not just doing like weird things for the sake of it, but usually there is like usually some good idea behind doing it. Even if it doesn't work out, maybe it did at least sound kind of viable. And then in second place we have JJ. Uh, yeah, I think creativity is kind of what you think about when you think about JJ, and most people probably putting him first here just for all the insane stuff he does. But yeah, I think I put Larvitar above him just for maybe having uh, just like better ideas. Like yeah, JJ is really creative, but I'm not sure I agree on the ideas as of then. So just punishing him a bit for that, but definitely does have his good creative ideas too, but maybe not the most consistent. And some are good, some are bad. And in third place, I have myself, and that might be a controversial pick for some, since I've been hearing that I'm not the most creative player and do a bit too many standard routes. And I do think there is like some truth to it that as their player you just often kind of end up doing more standard routes just because well it makes sense. It's kind of the meta because it's good, and yeah that often is just the highest chance of winning. So yeah, I think it's just as the slower player it's a lot easier to show creativity since like a lot of the more creative plays are like you are taking a lot of risk just so you can like make a crazy upset happen. But yeah, that does start out with taking a risk, and often when you are the faster player, or just in general advantage. It's just maybe not the smartest idea to go for the riskier plays when you could win without taking the unnecessary risks. But I do think I still have some pretty out there game plans in tourney matches when I do see them. But yeah, maybe also just I think most recently in the most recent tourney, I would say maybe more so on the screen side. I think I experimented a lot with like doing the delay click trap plays in Invasion. So pretty much how that play works is that you have like the fastest goal on one of the sides, but it's maybe doesn't lead into the most promising matchup. So it's not really how the card is expected to be played. So then there is another side with like the expected start, and that's usually like a different matchup. So say the fastest goal would be a rows matchup, then the expected start would be the columns matchup. So you kind of take a risk by going for the fastest goal and then delaying it. So if your opponent does go for it for whatever reason, then you are kind of just in a really bad spot. But it's usually like a kind of a safe risk if you are confident in your read that your opponent is going for the best start, then it's usually not too risky still, and then you can like delay it until like 15 seconds before the best start becomes accessible, and the value you get by doing that is pretty much that your opponent just didn't know the matchup they were playing early, so they spent some extra time doing something that wasn't really something that they want in the matchup that ended up being played. So then they are at a disadvantage, at least for the early game, and then you can maybe get some contested middle goal that maybe against like the if your opponent expected to end up on that side, you probably don't win to that. But since they did something unnecessary, not knowing the matchup, then you suddenly do have a priority to that middle goal. That's pretty much the idea behind that play. And yeah, that's something I've been experimenting with lately. And I do think it has a lot of potential to uh, make some difficult cards playable in Invasion, but yeah, it's also still like a risky game plan since, of course, you are delaying your first goal. That's never gonna be foolproof. So yeah, it's not something I've been able to like do too much since I'm usually the faster player. So the standard start is maybe something that I'm more tempted to go for myself, but it's definitely something I try to keep in mind. And yeah, I think it's still valuable to keep in mind as the faster player, so you can maybe see it coming and adapt to it. But yeah, I think third place just for that is fair. But uh, yeah, could definitely see myself somewhere else too. And at fourth place, I have Jeff, and it is probably one of the categories I have less to say about Jeff, but he definitely has his creative moments, maybe more so on the micro routing side than like coming up with really out there game plans. But yeah, maybe he has some, but I just haven't seen them. But yeah, I think fourth place is fair just for the micro routing, but maybe not the most creative game plans usually. And then in fifth place, I have Dex. and this might be just another one of those where I haven't seen the best of him, and yeah, what I have seen has been in the latest tourney where I don't think he had like, maybe he didn't have like the most meta game plans, but I feel like usually when he when he did something that wasn't standard, it usually maybe didn't end up the best. So yeah, maybe you could call that creative in some sense, but I feel like it has to also like have some good thought behind it to be valued on this category for me. But yeah, I guess it depends how you see it. But yeah, I also haven't seen the Prime decks, so hard to say if that's a fair estimate.
Oh crap! Most creative is actually very similar to my criteria for like best game plan and card analysis. But because of that, I put JJ number one. Just this is actually very similar because I think to be creative, you need to have or to have a good game plan, you need to be creative, right? I think those two kind of go hand in hand a little bit. I guess not always, but number one, I put JJ because I guess the difference between most creative and best game plan would be who has the better ideas, right? And I think JJ is always coming up with like unique and I don't want to say innovative, but unique and fresh sort of concepts, and definitely has like worked around what a bingo card should be. And it doesn't always work, but I guess in terms of creativity, I'm just gonna put it number one. So I guess the rest of this is just kind of like I feel like this might be my fault. I'm sorry, Tomato. But number two, I put Ramato. Again, he invented a lot of these routes. He invented the flow of bingo match. He's done this by playing a million bingo matches. He's created what's tried and true. And he's still pretty creative. Like, I think he has his moments, like, nowadays, where he has a very fresh idea through a card, or for, like, an invasion, he has, like, a kind of unseen way to get to the other side of the board in, like, 10 minutes, So there you go. Larvae, I put number three. Very similar to best game plan. I feel like it's just I don't know why I made those two categories so similar in my mind. If you need me to re-record this, Tomato, that's fine. But I put Larvae at number three because I just did. Dex I actually put at number four, so there's a difference between this and the other category. Dex I put at number four and me at number five. The reason I put Dex at number four is kind of the same reason I would put JJ at number one, is I do think Dex has really interesting ideas that don't always work, but in terms of sheer creativity, I feel like he is always able to leverage the fact that he knows so much stuff and knows like all these insane strats. I feel like he leverages it really well into his routes. It doesn't always pan out, but I think Dex always has like a very unique interpretation of a card. I think it pans out way less than it works for JJ, but that's partially because he's slower and less consistent, but that's why I would put him at number four. And then me, I just put at five because I think I play things pretty safe, and I don't, I have my moments, but I don't think I'm I don't think I'm the one like reinventing the wheel when it comes to bingo, and maybe that's a downfall as me as a player, I don't know.
For the fifth category, I wanted to know who had the best reads.
Last but not least is the reads. I saw this as part of the information game, right? But not just how well you can see the information, but like how well you can pack a punch with it. So number one, I said Ramato. Ramato's number one whenever I play him. I feel like he's got a good tab on me. But also, just thinking about the Paperario versus Ramato game, Dawn of a Dynasty, like he needed 3 goals before he could click one that Paperario was favored to. But he just clicked all 3 of those, and then boom, bang, he's got an advantage. Ramato seems to be very good at finding those little advantages that don't hurt him too much. Next, I put Larvae. I remember playing Larvae in season 5, and again, this is where the throat punch comes in. Like, we were playing Blackout, and I think it might have been both our first times playing Blackout or something, and so you get to black a goal, before the match even starts. So he blocked the goal that I was going to go right for. And I was just like, okay, man. First time playing a format. Okay, you got it. Next would be Jeff. I don't think he has like the gut punch typically with information, but he does have a good tab on where players are at. It doesn't always manifest in like, oh, I got this one goal that like destroyed you, I think. But he has a good idea of where players are at, I think. Next would be JJ. Again, all these players are awesome. I haven't seen JJ like take that one goal. It's like, oh, this is super important. This destroys my opponent. You know, that type of deal. And then me at the bottom, I guess I'll talk a little bit about like I get caught up in flow state quite a bit in matches, and I feel like to make reads, I kind of have to remove myself from like, okay, what's the next optimal goal? I do play the game pretty well in most matches, but sometimes removing myself from the game, forcing myself to think, I'm not usually good at figuring out when to do that. So yeah, that's what I got.
Best reads, I really don't know. I don't think this is going to be that good of a ranking. So sorry, I guess. Best reads, though, I'd put Ramato at number 1. The reason I put Ramato at number 1 is I just feel like anytime I played him, he's never really been off on something. I feel like he, especially if you look at like semifinals, which I still haven't really watched those matches back, but just off of my experience playing them, I do think I was read off of like a book, you know, at least the last 2 matches. Especially that last match where I just didn't even have a chance. I feel like in that match, like it wasn't even possible for me to win because I think he had such a clear idea of what I was doing, unless I just purposely went on my way to do some like crazy stuff, which again could tie into me as a player not being creative enough. But I feel like that's usually most of his matches. I can't remember a time Ramato's been like seriously off on his reads. Number 2, I put myself because I feel like this is personal bias, you know, whatever. I'm sure not everyone will agree, but the reason I put myself so high here is I personally am usually right about this stuff. Like I'll usually watch a match back and I was like, yep, that's what I thought. Or in a scrim, I'll be like, yep, that's basically what I thought the second in the interview. I usually know what's going wrong in a bingo, which I think is kind of the thing about reads. Like I know where my opponent is. I know if they're doing a better route than me. It doesn't mean I can always stop it. It doesn't mean, and sometimes I have a problem where I just commit to something that I know is bad, or like I'll be unsure about something, but like pretty positive, but I'll still lean in the wrong direction just because I feel like I have to, I guess. But I usually know, you know, I've commentated probably over, 200 bingos. I don't know if that's a real number. I just made that up, but it's probably true. I've commentated so many bingos. I've watched so many bingos. Like I know usually what's going wrong or what's going right for me in a given moment. So that's why I put myself number 2. It's biased because, I am the only one who can know what I am thinking, but that's why I would put myself that high. Number 3 is Larvy, just because I think he's smart. I think he knows, generally speaking. It's very similar to me. Can't remember any time that he's been seriously off when it comes to stuff like this. I don't really know how to rank the bottom of this. I just put Dex number 4 and JJ number 5. Mostly because I think JJ's kind of rigid in how he thinks about the other side. Like he knows how to, of course, he knows how to adapt. He knows how to play around it. He knows how to play around anything, really. But I do think he kind of doesn't always get the reads correctly, which is why sometimes he's put off guard in the first place. I guess, I don't know. I don't have the best reason for this. I think this is kind of a tough category. I'd have to watch back some more matches, I think, but I guess I can't really know how Dex and JJ think necessarily. But I think I just put JJ last, not because he's like bad, just because I just think he sometimes is just, he thinks about things a little too like, oh my god, I can't even talk. I think sometimes he's just not correct in like how he sees something happening while playing a game. but he's so good at the game and so fast that he's able to work around that.
All right, I have to re-record this because I feel like my initial ranking was kind of like not that smart. For reads, last place I have myself. This is more of like a lack of information on the others that I have, and kind of like a bias against myself, because I remember the bad reads that I have had in official games. Notable ones are, for instance, in Season 2, Bingo League Season 2 against Samu. It was a Connect 5 game, and I wanted to lock him into like going for, like, I wanted to do like a threaten of a Connect 5 by doing 50 from 3, 50 from 2, and something else. And someone wanted to win like a pinner goal, like a pinner hidden or something, even though that's like ludicrous with a 50 from 3 start. But the idea was to pin him into doing 3 4 reds on a card where 3 4 reds was like the worst goal. And he ended up doing like a Connect 5 cheese win with 3 4 reds in the first place. That was like completely off on what I expected. I got like JJ'd in like Season 1. In Season 2 against Jeff, I did like a play that that was more greedy than was warranted, because I just like expected Jeff to not like prioritize like the middle goal as much. It was invasion, as he ended up doing. Against Trey, I was like very cocky. I was like, it was like an insane Noki card, and I did like lives during my Delfino Shines. I did like sometimes even like a Pianta 1 or Pianta 1 and 2 as like fastish level shines, because I just didn't expect him to recognize that Noki is good. Like, what the hell? Like that was completely off. That was a complete like misjudgment on how good Trey's like card awareness was. And the read was like, I thought he was complete garbage, and it turned out it was not complete garbage. Wow, insane. One thing that I wanted to say as like, oh, that was a good read by me, is something that ends up actually being good adaptation, and it's like a call for bad read actually, because the regular season game against Shadamari that I had, I did not expect him to start like a specific goal. Like, I think it was like an actual free reds rush that had like, I kind of planned it like softly to do it early. So I kind of knew what it wanted to achieve. And I didn't really think about like, oh, what if he does it? Because like that was completely like not on my mind. And when he did this, I had to completely adapt. But having to completely adapt means that I had zero idea what the hell like he was going to do. And like in Season 5 finals as well, like the read that like Amber would go for like a cheese play was also completely off, because he played fairly standard in that final. So that was also completely off. So like, I think of like the negative examples, and I can't think of like exact positive examples of me like being like very accurate or like uniquely accurate with reading my opponent. I think the unique accurateness is very important for that. Fourth place, I initially had Dex, but I'm now putting in JJ in there, because like a lot of the times he talks about like in post game, like in like interviews, he sometimes like talks about like how he kind of like didn't have like the idea, like the realization of like their progress or like the reads that he ended up having. And even though his like game plan, like his gameplay kind of demands having some sort of like good idea of like what your opponent is doing, and being able to get away with like the arbitrary bad, with like the poker face or like poker board or whatever, kind of requires like a read, but like it's nothing. It's like a soul read rather than like a information read, and I don't know how much is like of that is actually just like gambling. Like, yes, reads is supposed to be like kind of soul read in that way, but it just like doesn't feel like concrete to me. Third is Dex, because it's just very difficult to get information, and like I don't have like particular negative examples of that. By the way, like I am redoing this, and I had JJ first initially because of like how his gameplay demands it, but like just as a negative examples, like kind of are dragging it down more. And like maybe him having actually no man, I will put JJ in third. Second is that was also difficult if I want to who I want to put between Jeff and Romado, like who I wanted to put up. I am now deciding actually Jeff is second and Romado is first. The bad late game or end game thing that I mentioned for Romado is a possible strength of his, and just like being able to, like, yeah, my opponent is not going to be thinking that I'm doing a bad play, or like I'm doing like a bad way of closing out the game. And just that can be like constituted as reads. Like something that he does rather frequently are like big delays with like, and then doubling it or like putting it all into like a triple, quad, or like a quintuple click, and kind of doing it everything at once. And like that delay timing is definitely something where you just like need to know kind of like where you need to have a read of your opponent, just like thinking that this is not going to be something that they will be doing. And Ramada does it very uniquely well. He does it very uniquely and uniquely well. Jeff, on the other hand, doesn't have like as much of like bright side, like upsides, but I don't have like any negative example of him doing like a bad read. I think he's just like very accurate with very normal information, and he doesn't have like anything bad that's holding him down. I think Romado has like some bad, but like I think he has like unique strength that makes it more reasonable for him to be number one and Jeff number two. And that's kind of it.
Best reads. The final one. I guess like best reads in terms of like knowing where the opponent is, making that correct play at the perfect time. I think I'm gonna put Dex at 5 on this one. A lot of times this is solely based off of my matches against him, it goes back to the discipline as well, where like I would click a goal and he would just get stun locked of like not sure how I could have gotten there, or like not really where I could be, but just like how I could have gotten there, and the read in terms of how to pivot into the next direction. I think that's where it is for like best reads. That's my prediction on that. Gonna put Larvae at 4 on this one. I think this is gonna be similar to the Dex on the other one. This is just a placeholder. I don't really have much to say about Larvae being a reader or not. I haven't noticed a lot of it. And especially recently, he hasn't played in a lot of the past tournaments. He's just been an analysis, so it's hard to be a reader without the analysis portion of it. At number 3, gonna put... Who am I gonna put at number 3? I'll put me at 3. I'm the one who sort of makes the plays. I'm not really good at the reading on it of like, if my play falls apart, why did it happen? I sort of struggle with that. Especially like if my gameplay was good. I'm not really good with the timings. And timings is a huge part of reads, of like knowing how long things take. If he got this goal, how much time has he spent doing other things? That's not something that I'm super good at, But I've gotten better at it, especially in terms of late game. Of like, okay, I know I should be in Noki here. I know I should be close to 26 shines, and my opponent should be close to 26 shines, so I need to rush it for it to be a race. Stuff like that. Ramado, gonna put at number 2 gonna put Jeff at 2 for the same reason that I have put him for like creativity in terms of reading. He's very good at calling people out a lot. He does that a lot in terms of calling people out and being, okay, if you're holding this goal hostage, I'll just take it. I'll just take it from you. If you're holding all of Serena hostage, I'll take some of it. Why not? So I'm gonna put Jeff at 2 for reads, and then number 1 for best reads, I'm gonna put Ramado. And this is a personal thing of he just sees right through me. Eventually, I will be the one to beat him eventually. But as of right now, when I do those creative plays, he's able to see right through it. And that's like what a reader does, is able to read into the play and be like, okay, this is not going to work. And this is exactly why it's not going to work. I know the solution, and I know if I just go down this route, this play will fall apart. And he did a really good job of that.
And at last we have best reads. Here I have Jeff at first place, which is mostly based on just watching like all of his screams in preparation for the latest tourney. And yeah, he did seem to usually be pretty aware of where his opponent was, but this is mostly just the vibes-based pick. I don't have like too many examples in mind of Jeff making reads. And then at second place, I have myself, and I think this is kind of one where I could go many places depending on which matches you are looking at. So I would say maybe sometimes I can get a bit lazy with tracking my opponent, and maybe then I don't make the best reads. But I think when it's an important game, like the one that really comes to mind was the third game in our best of 3 with Jeff. I think in that game I was really aware of what Jeff could be going for, and pretty much what I expected him to go for was that was what he went for. So yeah, that's just all went according to plan. And then between third to fifth place, I feel like I could place these in any order. I wouldn't care too much. Just don't have enough information on them. Like Larvitar, I haven't seen play in like 5 years, so how am I supposed to remember how good his reads were? It's just such a niche category that it's not really viable. But yeah, it just takes third place just because he's good at bingo. And then fourth place, I have Dex. Also, like, no idea on his reads, but let's just assume that Brian Dex was good at reads. I think that's fair enough. And then at fifth place, I have JJ, and JJ is always kind of tough to play since, yeah, as said earlier, I think the focus is usually on the spectacle more so than like on his bingo fundamentals. So maybe we don't pay the most attention to those. So yeah, could go anywhere here, but yeah, hard to play. So I'm just gonna put him at fifth place for not having any info.
And that is the final ranking of the final category. And so I've compiled them all into one big list because I was actually asked to upon publishing my first part, and then to give my own opinion. But before that, I wanted to just say a huge thank you to everyone, Ramado, JJ, Dex, Jeff, and Larvi, for agreeing to do this. It wouldn't have been possible without them, and I know all of them have like different levels of comfort with like expressing a super emotional opinion about this type of thing, or like a level of like comfort just speaking into a microphone. Like, I think for everyone it's a little bit new, or not everyone the same amount. So please, I linked a bunch of like relevant links to everyone below, so you can follow them. In addition, some of them aren't like the most public people, but you can always find them in the bingo server if you want to ask more. So that's also down in the description below. With that being said, I have my cool little post-it note, and I'll do them in the order of the categories. So I have a little score next to everyone. The springtime blues are crazy. Anyways, my bad. But the score is basically just the sum of their placements. So like 5 first places would be a score of 5. 5 fifth places would be a score of 25. So lower is better. Golf rules. So in terms of composure, in first place we have Ramato with a score of 7. After that we have JJ with a score of 12. That's followed by Dex with a score of 16. And then tied in fourth are Jeff and Larvy, both with a score of 20. Honestly, I'd say this pretty much lines up with what I think. The only note I would make is that Dex is, in my opinion, a super, super interesting case, because I'd say in the past he's even had some of the worst composure. I remember, I think, like dying on Sandbird twice in a 2v2 final in the past. And then like he's had his off games still. Like I know in the last Swiss round against me, it was also kind of messy. Like, I don't know, some Noki 2 jumpless fails. So like I think the gameplay does kind of go slack for Dex sometimes. But I think at the same time, he's also proven he can be one of the most clutch players. So I think third place is a fair ranking for him. Everything else also pretty much lines up with me. I think Ramato's composure is partly also what makes him so scary to play against from experience, just because he might be down, but it feels like a minefield. Like you make one misstep and all of a sudden you lose the game. So super interesting. That's composure. Next is game plan and card analysis. In first we have Ramato with 8 points. He didn't even get first all that much. People just consistently put him second. After that we have Larvy with a score of 12. After that we have a tie between Jeff and JJ with 15. And then unfortunately our highest score, we have Dex at 25, which means everyone gave him last place in this category. My bad, Dex. I kind of threw you in with the Sharks on this one. I'm going to keep that in mind for my next thing like this. I was really debating who I wanted to include when, and I thought Dex would be a great ad because he's kind of experienced some of the sort of newer parts of bingo, and I thought he'd have a really interesting and unique perspective, and I think that's true, actually. I think he really does. So once again, thank you, Dex. Hopefully this wasn't just like an ego killer for you, King, because you're a goat. Anyway, so that's gameplay and card analysis. I think in terms of everything else, things mostly line up. I actually put a lot of value in the Jeff game plan. I think he has pretty good game planning, so I think having him tied third, maybe I'd think him higher, but also Ramato and Larvy are both really good, so who am I to say? Discipline. So Jeff gets first in this one. I think that makes a lot of sense. Followed by Ramato with 10 points, Larvy with 17, JJ with 19, and Dex with 21. And I'd say the only thing that I'd really do with this part of the list is swap Dex and JJ for sure, because I think Dex actually, especially before this tournament, for past ones, would actually do a run through of all the bingo ALs and actually seriously practice pretty significantly for every event. And I think that really showed. I think, we get older, there's less time, so, there's less ability for everyone to practice. But also, it also kind of depends on what you mean by discipline, right? So, JJ is probably the most active Sunshine player. If you consider that discipline, it's it's a whole own thing. So, totally understand why the rankings are the way they are. Creativity, JJ's first. I think this is not a big surprise. Ramato second, which I thought that was actually really funny because Ramato was working really hard to defend him putting himself third, and then that was the lowest score anyone gave him. So classic Ramato. Dex was fifth with a score of 23. Larvy was third, and Jeff was fourth. And I said them in a weird order because, I don't know, I just did. Sorry if I got anyone's hopes up. My bad. I think this is pretty fair. I think Jeff is a pretty like safe player as well, so like I think it makes sense that he's a little lower on this list. That being said, he's also like, especially in the past, had like these flashes of like incredible brilliance at the same time. So it's like, you know, it's so hard because, you know, over a sample of like every game, like people have had great moments, people have had really goofy moments and stupid ones. So, you know, it is what it is. And then finally, the last category is reads. Ramato was once again first with a score of 6. Only one person didn't put him first. Then JJ is in 4th because this is the order I have them written down for some reason. And so, you know, he's 4th with a score of 20. Dex in 5th with a score of 22. Jeff at 2nd with a score of 10. And Larvy in 3rd with a score of 17. I think that's all pretty fair. I think for reads, like JJ put it best with the Larvy placement, where like he can see some really clever, creative game plans in the like card routing phase, but a lot of the time in a game he'll like play it safer. But it's also hard for me to judge Larvy because I haven't seen him play since I was but a wee lad. So honestly, I think for the most part, people ranked each other pretty well. Like I'm sure if there were individual lists, I'd probably pick him harder. But like as a collective, I think people did a pretty good job. I think also part of why JJ is so low in reads is because a lot of his style is him making the play and not him reading the play, which I think he also brought up. So it's really cool to hear everyone's insight. I think everyone's super fascinating. And then in a bit, I'll add a little bit about like I'll add some outtakes. People had some stuff to say once they were done. Like, I hope this is good. You guys all did great. So thank you all so much. Is there anything else I want to say? Oh yeah, one other thing was I gave everyone the option to add an honorable mention, and no one did for any category. And in retrospect, I'm actually kind of glad they didn't, because I didn't realize how much everyone would have to say. Like I thought everyone would kind of like say something and then put it away because, you know, it's like a homework assignment. No one really wants to put like 3 hours into a homework assignment. They just kind of want to get it done type of thing. But no, everyone took it like super seriously. So I'm really grateful that everyone, you know, took it as seriously as I did. Thank you guys so much. You did excellent. And you know, Larva, you can tone down the yap sesh a little bit next time, but I'm just poking fun. Thank you guys again. And yeah, here are the last couple little outtakes. Hopefully I'll have another video up in like a week or so. I've been trying to stick to this whole 1 a week schedule. I think I can get it done for another 2-3 weeks. After that, I might run a little drier because I got to start like building up the next things, worrying about 2v2, that type of thing. But that being said, thank you so much. And here are a couple outtakes from the recordings.
Okay. So I'm using my nice like YouTuber mic for this. It's not. I mean, it's like only 100. It's only like $100, so it's probably not that nice. But I will in post do some audio balancing and what I usually do for my YouTube videos. So hopefully that makes it a little better. I will recommend that you probably will need to raise the audio a little bit. But anyways. So I don't know how to start this. I don't know if Tomato wants us to introduce ourselves. I am Jeff Coe, also known as Jeff Compass, also known as Jeff. Yeah, let's just get into it, I guess. I feel like once Dex like starts losing in a match, I do think it's kind of tough for him to recover sometimes. I think is kind of why I'm saying this. Or just decisions like made, like I know he over delayed like the first goal in Invasion, which I'm sure he feels bad about, so I feel bad, you know, bringing that up again, but it does matter, I think, is what I'm trying to get at. And I've just seen too many matches where I think it feels like a landslide where one thing goes wrong and it just like continues to go wrong, you know. But that being said, it's like, again, this is just, you know, you have 5 players here. And if you put like, you know, 20 players, Dex would still be like, you know, around 5 to 10 or something in this kind of category. Maybe not 5 to 10, but like, you know, 10 to 15. Just cut that line, Tomato. I don't know what I'm talking about. Dex has always been, you know, this is still actually pretty close with Larvy and Ramato, honestly. Dex, I don't think has done a lot of bingo ILs. He's done a few like meme ones, but in terms of scrims, like even in season 2 when he was in like Division 4, or was it might have been Division 3. Was it? Wait, was that the season with multiple divisions? I don't remember. Like with 3 and 4, or was it like 3A and 3B? I don't freaking remember anymore. Okay, you can cut that. Sorry, Tomato. He invented the best routes that you see that people still do today. Cracking open my second energy drink because I'm tired. Okay. Number 2, I'm going to put JJ. I hope this is like somewhat decent of a ranking. It's very tough, actually. It's actually very, very tough. Again, Dex, I want to say very good player. Just the worst out of like all 5 of us, which I think he would probably agree with. So it's just easier for him to gravitate towards the bottom, but I hope it's not taken as a sign of disrespect for Dex. Because again, I was 2v2 partners with him. I've always been like defending him, especially in this recent tournament, so I feel kind of bad. He was like 4th or 5th at every category. But yeah, I don't know. I think that was kind of dog shit on my part, so I hope that's somewhat usable. And yeah, peace.
All right. Ranking these will be very difficult because for 2 reasons. First of all, ranking yourself is always insanely difficult because it's a very asymmetric amount of information that I have. Like it's not like the same information that I have for like each player as well. So like that makes it just like generally difficult. And second, is that the last time I played was 3.5 years ago, and that only like very half-heartedly. And the last time I played very seriously was 5 years ago, and a lot of time has passed. For instance, like Dex, I only played in season 5. Like I was like 3-1 against him, which means like I was bad. Like I was bad at the time, so he was bad at the time. He probably improved. And like Jeff also definitely improved from the last time I played him, which was in season 2.
But yeah, I think that's all of the ratings. I hope I did this correctly. I hope I don't have to do this again. But it was fun rating these things. So yeah, enjoy making a video out of this, Tomato.